Hello and welcome to another episode of Hoax or Holy Grail. In relation to the United States, the articles that I found both from Canada, as I've read a snippet, and the United Kingdom both started off with commenting about the increasing number of books being banned in the United States. So again, you need to pay attention to what's going on in other countries, not just your own. When I made up my list, as I say, I went to the American Library Association, and the list that I have is from 2010 to 2019. They have more up-to-date lists as well. They also have a number of great articles. They talk about volunteer opportunities if this is an issue that you want to get more involved in. There is a Freedom to Read Foundation. That is a nonprofit listed in Chicago that you can learn about. I should talk about that little graphic. I did debate not having the little puppet with strings, but as I said earlier, what I found is going through this, there were so many times that obviously the complaints that people are making were made by people who didn't read the material. And to me, that indicates little puppets on strings just waiting for someone to come and move them to whatever next issue or topic they want them to address. And sadly, because when people are paying attention to those little puppets and little trolls, other things end up getting slid by or passed over because people don't end up noticing them because of all this other noise and chaos these little puppets create. And no, they're not just in the United States. We have our puppets here in Canada, believe me. The United Kingdom. And I put here another industrialized country. I could have actually said another democratic country where books are being challenged. Now, their main source is the Chartered Institute of Library and Information Professionals, CILIP, and I came across two articles related to that. They're both from The Guardian. Now, this first one is September 21, 2023. This was written by Ella Creamer, and it talks about a 52-page document that was put together regarding the guidelines, and these have been updated from their 2008 document. And in this article, the new document comes as book bans in the United States reach a record high. Killip acknowledges the U.S. bans and says that the incidence of official book banning in the United Kingdom is relatively low. However, it adds that if librarians are asked to remove titles by local counselors or the governors of their school, for example, they should resist as far as reasonably possible and make Killip aware of the situation. That implies that although officially bans are low, there is something more certainly going on there. The article also goes on to say that there is no formal list. So the UK is similar to Canada in that respect. One thing that I really wanted to quote from this particular article, as it relates to not just books but education: libraries exist to ensure that everyone everywhere enjoys the freedom to read, to ask questions, and to learn without fear or favor, said Nick Poole, CEO of Killip. In today's increasingly polarized world, it is more important than ever to ensure that our sector is clear in its opposition to censorship. He advocated the promotion of the intellectual freedom of our users. Libraries should not be a place to hide from difficult ideas, but to ensure that difficult ideas can be critiqued in their proper context. To that, I would add that should also apply to classrooms. Our teachers are supposed to be educating our youth about critical thinking, asking questions, learning not just about the future, but where we came from, learning about why it's unacceptable to use certain terms. And I get there are some people who are going to continue to do it because guess what? It gets them views, whether it's on this social platform of YouTube or TikTok or Facebook. It is truly disgusting the amount of inappropriate content. It stays up because everyone can say whatever they want, no matter how revolting, no matter how despicable. And sadly, our youth are watching that. And the message that they're getting is it's okay to treat other people like garbage because, hey, look at so and so and all the views they got. Look at what so and so is saying, and there's no consequences for that behavior or those words. So, like I say, that it's a big issue. It's a big, big issue that goes so much further than just banning books. Another article that I found is also from The Guardian. This was April the 20th, 2023. Now, she was talking about a third of UK librarians have been asked to censor or remove books that this research revealed. So this was written prior to the Killip announcement of their 52-page document. I think that's great because it was just a matter of months before there was actually something changing in terms of what they should be doing. Now, the article that I have printed off isn't the article from The Guardian, and I do need to track down where I found this because it isn't the same article, but it's the same content, which means someone plagiarized the Guardian article. There in itself is another big issue because it cites many of the same points, but it is not the same author. So what someone did is found Sarah Shafi's work and just cut and paste and threw it together as their own article. I find that equally disturbing. And again, this is why you need to look at more than one source, whether it's a website, an article, what have you, because it was just a fluke that in this case, I, for whatever reason, hadn't written down where I found this article. So the other day, as I was getting ready to put this video together, I decided I needed to find out where these articles came from and their dates. I still haven't found where this article is from, but I did find the source that they took the information from and just basically cut and paste everything to do their own article. Like I say, iceberg, little tip, so many other things coming up because of it. That sums up what I had found in terms of the United Kingdom. As I say, there are other places to check, and you can certainly find more by searching Killip. Burn or deleting books. If you think books are no longer being burned in 2024, apparently you haven't been paying attention to the news and various things going on. Something I did find on the Freedom to Read website was a list of challenges and different things that have been happening with books. This list begins in 2019. No surprise, Harry Potter. Another book often challenged along with Harry Potter, The Handmaid's Tale. I read that in high school. I don't know why people have their knickers in a knot about this. I mean, honest to crikey, if you don't like the book, then don't read it. It doesn't mean the rest of us have to not be able to have access to it. In fact, it's been a while since I've read it. I'm almost thinking not quite Stepford Wives because they were kind of just mindless doing what they were told. But again, different society and how everything went. There are a number of other issues that are mentioned. 2011, Canadian author Lawrence Hill received emails from people complaining about his novel. The complaints came from Amsterdam, and that's where they actually burned copies of his book. 2010, the U.S. Department of Defense bought and destroyed the entire first printing, 9,500 copies, of Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer's Operation Dark Heart. The book focused on the war in Afghanistan. Schaefer had worked closely with military officials when he was writing the manuscript. Some feared that the book would reveal military secrets. Schaefer's publisher did release a second printing, but it featured cuts and changes that the U.S. Department of Defense had ordered. That one kind of makes me go ding, ding, ding. What was it if this author had in fact worked with military officials? Obviously, there's something they didn't want coming out, and that made me think of Encounter in Rendlesham Forest. I've just read this, and this is a book by Nick Pope with John Burroughs and Jim Peniston. They're both United States Air Force retired. This book, as Mr. Pope mentions, and had to be approved in this case by the United States and British governments, because it also deals with 2 American military bases on British soil. To my knowledge, no one tried to take this copy and destroy it or have it rewritten. What I will say in this account is that there are things that come up that they do outright say they can't talk about because that information is still classified, but it doesn't take away from the content of what they're trying to discuss in terms of what happened at Rendlesham Forest. So I don't know if this other individual maybe didn't do the same thing, or if perhaps he was putting other people in jeopardy. There are obvious reasons for concern. If people are of a certain division within the military, they don't want their names or their faces, obviously, splayed all over the place because, let's face it, this is a world of some pretty cuckoo folks, and you don't want them tracking you down, or your family for that matter. So I don't know if in that case there were valid reasons for pulling the book off the shelf. And that, of course, brings up the point that sometimes there may, in fact, be valid reasons. Back to why do I have delete up here? Well, the big reason is a lot of people now have audiobooks and ebooks. Like I say, I'm old school, book in hand. However long my channel lasts, I will probably have one unhaul video, which I'm planning to make within the next month, because there's a few books and topics I know I won't be getting into. But beyond that, any book that comes into my house after that is definitely staying. A possible exception might be some of the fiction if I know I'm not going to read them again. In any case, yes, I do worry that when you have all your books up in the cloud or what have you, And this came up because recently we had cyber attacks here in Ontario, first on the Toronto Public Library, then on the London Public Library, as well as 5 hospitals in the area. Sadly, what happened there is they don't know whether private information from staff and patrons was collected. For the hospitals, of course, you have all the medical records and everything. And what's even more sickening is the fact that, well, that was done because whatever they were trying to grab, they had a buyer somewhere. Like I say, there are days I'm really glad I'm 60 and not 16. With those cyber attacks on the library, I mean, again, there was a huge ripple effect, and I have made a video about that, so I won't go too much into it. But it does demonstrate that when your resources aren't in your hand, it's sadly in this world far too easy for someone else to just boop and it's gone. What are your thoughts? Have I mentioned anything that you weren't already aware of? Am I kind of the only one who's had those holy crap moments as I began to look into reasons that books were banned and how the ripple effect of all of this is just going farther and farther into what's happening in classrooms, the information that students are getting or lack thereof, depending on where they are, of course. Do you think libraries should be open full-time during school hours? And if you're a parent, I would suggest you look into what's going on in that building where your kids are going to be educated. Are you worried about any of your books disappearing? And with that, I mean your audio and ebooks. I don't have them. My husband does. And, I just maybe at some think, and maybe I'm just being a pessimist, but I'm thinking at some point it's not going to so much be an issue of burning books as it is finding a delete button. But I could be wrong. Comment down below and let me know what your thoughts are. This page lists some of the sources that I had referred to. I had considered putting links to all the different articles, and then I thought, you know what? If people are interested in this issue, wanting to learn more about it, I've mentioned the name of the articles that I had read from, so people should be able to easily find those if they're interested. If you want more information about it, you could certainly email me. If you want more information about this or you would like to get in touch with me, you can go to Google Chat and you can send me a direct message. Also, if you'd like to set up a conversation about books or some of the other topics that I discuss, Google offers the opportunity to set up spaces, which are rooms where you invite only the people that you want, and you can direct message each other, carry on a conversation. You can also share files. So there's another opportunity to connect as well. On this list, I also have Bill C-367 and Bill C-63. These are from Canada, and I'm currently reviewing them. I know people have mentioned them and concerns about the content. I'm not going to get into them because I haven't read them or reviewed them. I know one of them has to do with some changes to the criminal code, as my employment prior to working in schools did involve having to be familiar with the criminal code as well as being a case manager with clients. And I'll kind of leave that at that for now. But I do want to carefully review and contemplate what's in those documents. Because unfortunately, like with books, people quickly glance at these things, but because it's government and written in a certain way, you really need to take some time to read it, digest it, and process it to fully understand what it is they're trying to say, and whether, if, as it seems initially, it's a bad thing, or it's just the wording is tripping some people up. So that is something that I personally will be looking further into. Not sure whether it'll ever come up in a video, perhaps in a book review if it relates to that. But in any case, I just wanted to put that down here because it does certainly relate back to the banned book issue. If you're in the United States or the United Kingdom, I have no doubt you also have documents that relate back to this type of thing. So if you're interested, it isn't just about reading books to raise awareness. There's so much more that can be done to address this issue. As always, thank you so much for the gift of your time. If you found this video to be of interest or of benefit, if it tweaked your curiosity about banned books, be sure to give that like button a tickle and leave me a comment down below, as both of those help me to get out to other viewers who may be of like mind and who may also be interested in my content, which, as you may know, is quirky and eclectic. And yes, JP, thank you. I'm going to stick with that because it's accurate. I don't just talk about books. I also have nature videos and my silly cats on Friday. So if that's of interest to you, make sure you click on that subscribe button and definitely turn on the notification bell so you know when I upload content that may be of interest to you. Until next time, have a great one. Take good care.